Hey, this is Kina Knisley, and this is Real Talk about Real Estate. And today I have Shandice Banks from Arizona, and she is the new lead of KW Military. So, woo, thank you, Shandice, for stepping up. So, where are we now? What? Okay, first of all,
Sure.
where are you in Arizona?
Gilbert. I'm in Gilbert, so probably what you could say is southeast valley of the Phoenix metro area.
Okay.
So 45 minutes, yeah, southeast of Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix has so many little, it's like a big city with a bunch of little cities in it because
I know,
everybody's
and
like,
that's where
oh,
everybody
here.
clumps it. They're like, "Oh, you're in Phoenix." I'm like, "A suburb of." I mean, we just start all under the umbrella. I always tell everybody it takes you about 45 minutes to 60 minutes to get around town, but that's how big we are for sure.
Wow.
Mhm.
But okay, so you are active in real estate, but you are also taking over KW military. But where are you coming from? I'm sure you're out of the military now, but what were you? Tell us about that.
Oh, gosh, I mean, yeah, history. So, I'll tell you a little bit. Yeah, so I was in, I remember 9/11. I mean, that's really what it started, right? I mean, I'm the generation. So I remember being, I want to say it was my sophomore year, high school. I saw, 9/11 occur. I didn't do anything at that time. I was young. I was still learning to understand what was happening globally. But as soon as I graduated high school and went into college, my father actually got deployed. So he was 26 years active National Guard helicopter pilot, Apache. And so, I'm in college. I'm, gosh, 19. My father's 40, getting deployed to Afghanistan. And so that was definitely the starting point. And then my brother actually, not even about 6 months later, enlisted as well. So he went into military intelligence. And I was starting to feel the call. I wanted to finish what I had started, though. So I wanted to finish my degree first, finish that, and then 3 months after that, I was like, you know what? Everybody's deployed. I see, where we're at. I ended up enlisting as well. And yeah, and about, gosh, a year and a half later, the three of us met in Iraq when we were all three on overlapping tours. And
Oh my
that was kind of
goodness.
the start of the military. Yeah. So it was
Your poor
all,
mother.
I was going
I'm
to
just
say,
thinking of it as from the point of view
I know.
of her. Oh my
Yep.
goodness.
And that's where whenever I hear family and, spouses and parents, especially in the community, like that, that is a
It's huge.
very deep, yeah, my mom, I mean, you'll see a picture, she's the cowgirl, but, she took care of three soldiers deployed and was the rock. And
Yeah.
so we always said, you had a tour also, because I couldn't imagine being the person at home. You see the news, you see what's
Oh
going
yeah.
on, and there's nothing but questions and fears and emotion.
Yeah,
Uh,
because you guys can't
so,
tell us anything, right? You
no,
basically know nothing. And
no,
yeah,
and my dad and
it's
brother were top secret, and I was secret clearance, and there was no talking, so everything obviously was recorded over there. So that was hard. So yeah, she's like, yeah, my three soldiers are all secrets, so I don't even know
yeah,
where, what, or anything.
you don't know.
So yeah, it was a hard time, but no, so got back in '09. So happened during so crash occurred while I was deployed, came back, and I was in the reserve unit for a few more years, but that's really where I started transitioning actually into psychology. So I got injured when I was in Iraq, blew my knee out for the rest of the way from playing sports my whole life. And then I, of course, decided to be special operations. So putting 65 pounds on your back,
Oh yeah.
woman. I was one of 400 men in Iraq, so I was very specialized, but yeah, beat my body up for sure. So came home and was like, you know what, let me get into psychology and see about helping, because I started seeing all my soldiers around me with PTSD. I struggled with that a little bit as well, and so I became a trauma therapist actually after coming home from the tour. And then as I was doing the trauma therapy, I started realizing, man, I'm only experiencing the worst parts of the world. All I deal with is death, trauma, and risk. And unfortunately, I was like, you know what? I just don't know if this is the healthiest thing for me. And so I had a bad experience on my first buy and sell. And I said, this is what the money I spend and the fiduciary responsibility that I got. And I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way. And 6 months later, I became a real estate agent. And so that's kind of what led me here. And now I can say I actually use probably more psychology and counseling in
Oh
real
yeah.
estate than I did as a therapist. Let's
Yep.
just say that. But, nobody's getting hurt, and things like that. So yeah, this is kind of the new world that I've been living in.
Yeah, I always tell people you're their therapist, you're their cheerleader, you're their
Sure.
mom, you're everything. You are everything. And people just don't understand it. My husband will be like, "Why are they calling you for that?" I want them to. Where do you take your dog to the vet? Where do you get your hair done? Those questions. It's like, yeah, that's what you want. That means you did a good job. So, but
It's just
yeah,
like, it's what the military taught you. It's,
yeah,
especially with me, I was an E5. I was 22 years old, and I had my degree. So thankfully my father's most wise, comment he ever made to me, because I was actually going to go officer. And he said, "You're 20 years old, you're 21. Do you feel comfortable and confident leading troops in a time of war? I know you've been a leader in everything that you've done. What are your thoughts on that?" And I said, Dad, I think you're right. You always taught me you need to learn how to follow before you can learn to lead.
yeah,
And that by far was the best thing that I ever did. So I did go in and enlisted, and I learned a great deal of, everything that I needed to be successful. And it gave me that stoicism and that ability to stay calm. And that is what your clients are needing,
yeah.
right? And I'll tell you, the military discipline, I think, is a extremely valuable real estate.
Yeah, it is. So it just people who have served in the military are just different,
Mhm.
right? They show up
Absolutely.
on time. That's my biggest thing. So
Show up on
they're
time and
just,
just
yeah, they're a
shake
little
their
more
hand.
commitment.
Yeah, well, and the fiduciary responsibilities really, if you look at it, align with the military core values. It's pretty much in alignment with, what we already
Yeah,
were living your life to. So if you just stay in that core value, you are a good agent.
yeah.
And
You're going to show
unfortunately,
up the way you need to. So.
you do. So
So now we
absolutely.
talk about leadership because now you're leading KW military. So what led to that? And then we're so happy
Sure.
to have you. So I'm glad it led to that. But what got you there?
So yeah, so because of my psychology, I got into real estate, and a couple months in, I ended up in management, of course. So started training agents. I just started seeing a lot of. I've been a coach at heart for my entire life. How can I help you? You're struggling with your PT. Let's get you, back, and going. And I started seeing a lot of agents struggle. So I got into management, started becoming a trainer for a long time. Ended up actually getting hired to a mega team, not at that time, but they wanted to expand. They had just gotten a large relationship with Zillow, and this was about 8 years ago. So I ended up starting a branch from scratch, went to about 40 agents, did well, moved into regional team lead, ended up with about 280 agents over multiple states, doing, the biggest year we ever did was 1 billion in volume and 3,500 transactions. And so high speed, that's what Arizona is known for, is a lot of units, a lot of agents, a lot of innovation. So we're definitely a test market for things. And so leadership wise, as I kept leading, I've been doing a lot of coaching, a lot of development, and it's just kept going of backing out and, not seeing the trees, but actually seeing the forest, and just learning how to keep coming out to see both, your what is the 12-month, 6-month, 5-year trend lines looking like, and then how can I bring that down to my agents. And so that's really where I started stepping into just oversight, and I started seeing patterns. Again, with that counseling, I started seeing, evolution of, what agents are needing and the deficits. So I started becoming really an architect, if you will, for real estate. So I build designs, I build company workflows, departments, ancillary involvement. I diversify income streams. So I basically help build now infrastructurally, getting things there. And then about 2 years ago, I started playing with AI. And that's when some other stuff started changing for me. What I noticed building my company is there's so many different outside companies right now really pushing on the real estate industry
Oh yeah,
and really
they all
the
have their
cost.
hand out.
There
Yes.
is, right? And we're just getting this extreme, between the NAR, DOJ, and all these things, the pressure, the external pressure that we're seeing was just so unbelievable. And the costs are just becoming more and more costly.
Yeah.
So commissions are coming down, teams and brokerages need more to operate because the value costs more. And so that's when I started getting more into system design using AI to try to figure out how can I offset this margin, just doing lead acquisition. The cost to get leads now is skyrocketed,
Oh yeah.
where
And then you
And
have
the
to
ROI
nurture
is
them.
truly.
There's cost in nurturing them, right? I mean, if you're doing the follow-up and the pop buys and the events to nurture these leads, there's still cost involved. It just, you're not just paying for that one lead, you're paying for the nurture too.
Yep. And so, and you just start seeing it. And unfortunately, because of the external pressures, and not speaking ill will of any other company, but there's a lot of class action lawsuits now. You see Zillow, you see a bunch of these companies that are heavily influencing the decisions that are being made. And what I feel like is a lot of the control that the agents used to have been lost. The MLS isn't ours anymore. The syndicates own that. And so as I've been pushing and I started using AI, my thought was, is how can I help create a self-efficient, self-sustaining agent that isn't reliant on external influences to truly own their business? And I just started seeing agents really falling into lead flow from their teams and stuff. And as they're leaving their books of business behind. And it's just not sustainable. It's unfortunately becoming where it's like the Uber Eats, it's bringing in these 1099 subcontractors and they're paying for it, but they're getting this tiny margin out of all of the work that they're doing just because they're fitting into this structure. So long story short, been playing with that. And as I've been launching AI, I've seen like, no, AI can really fundamentally change how an agent does the business between the analytics that are coming in and being able to bring together complex data and give agents clear cut programs that they can truly execute without having to redesign themselves. Um, we're seeing a change again. We're seeing some new ownership of, wait, I can do this. And so that's just where I got excited. And as soon as I was ready to go, I actually ended up at KW talking to some people in the community sector. And they said that KW and told me what happened with the KW military community. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. How can I come and bring a structure, self-efficiency, self-sustainment? How can we actually create this on a very scaled way and truly bring back a different agent that owns their business, operates their business highly efficient with the cost and bringing more money to them. And so that's what I'm hearing is I want to actually scale out everything that I've been finding out the last two years.
Very cool. So where do you see
My
KW
mission.
military going with this? I know we're getting back on track. We're back on the calls. We're building that community. You can kind of feel the relationship sparking up again. So where do you see it going?
Really, what it comes down to is creating mission ready agents. That's where I just keep coming back. So what I loved about the military, and let me know what your experiences have been with that too, is they really did take care of you. It was a little institutionalized sometimes, but they fed you, they clothed you, they gave you who you needed to be, where you needed to go, and here's your pack, and here's the tools, and here's your weapon. Like you were fitted. And then when they dropped you, you had field guides. You had what you needed, and then your expectation was to execute. And I feel like that's what military does provide is a direct mission ready executable asset, right? That's who we were. And when we get dropped out of that environment, the world doesn't operate that way, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially in real estate, they say, here, let me train you on how to do it. They'll give you some ideas, but then there's this massive section of this prepare, build, create before to execute. There's this massive gap, of it that we used to have being filled by the military. And so that's what I want to be. I want to be the filler. So you need information, let's provide it for you. Let's give them where they should be, what they should do, and provide them if they need it. If you're self-efficient, by all means, but almost creating the military influence ecosystem again. Let's give you what you need when you need it, and then just clearly allow you to execute. Let's get the soldier back into execution. And I honestly think that's what's the biggest mess right now. And the environment in total, KW military, all agents, it's let's get mission ready agents.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they kind of need and I feel like when I'm working with somebody who is in the military or has a military background, and that's about half my business. There are some. My husband's also licensed, and he's the veteran, and then a contractor. I was a Dodds teacher, and then the military spouse and the Dodds teacher. So there are some that I know. I'm like, oh, you are going to click great with my husband. So they're just different, they're different than, and then I get the artists because I'm in Hawaii, right? So I kind of get a different vibe of people every once in a while. So I get those artsy fartsy people that are so on the other side of the spectrum, and believe me, there's days
Yes.
where I'm like, oh my gosh, just give me those
This
souls.
house is calling to me. Okay, let's go. Emotionally based. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then the soldier's
So,
looking at you like, tell me that this is right. Tell me,
oh
double
yeah,
check. Like, I think that they need a little bit more sometimes direction, especially enlisted. They learned how to follow.
yeah.
And
And
so
they're so
needing,
young, some of them, it's their
yeah,
first home because they have the BAH. And if you can convince them to invest and build wealth, I mean, before we even started the call, we talked about, the homes you've bought with your VA loans, the homes we've bought, the homes my daughter, who's only 28 and never, doesn't work, stays home with our children, is married to an E6 and has four rentals in their primary home. I mean, the wealth these kids can build with that VA loan is just astronomical. And it's,
well, it is.
but
Absolutely.
prepping the agents to teach them that is a whole different game, right?
No,
And
and that's where that psychology, comes from. Is I've always loved curriculum design. I actually was in a university. I was an enrollment manager for the military division. And that you're right. It's we need to create mission readiness, and that's from curriculum design. That's programs. That's a structured onboarding system where we're actually teaching them how to be not a soldier, but how to be the agent. And there is a boot camp, and there is an AIT, and there are highly involved structures that we experience in the military that could be the same things in real estate. There are same programs, and especially with AI, the advances of it so much is it's actually can be an individual pathway soon, where it's
yeah,
not just, hey, here's what everybody should learn. It's no, you're a mom, perfect, here's the mom pathway.
yeah,
You're a veteran, here's the veteran pathway. Where we're not clumping and overgeneralizing anymore. It's what do I need to get you prepared and mission ready for your clients
yeah.
and making
I
sure that
do
you
love, I mean, I feel like you kind of need each other. When I started real estate, it's only been 9 years. I was at a brokerage that had the training on the front end. So 6 weeks
Mhm.
of training every day. And then they kind of kicked you out of the nest and said, fly, and you were on your own.
Mhm.
Now KW is very different, right? We all know there's trainings. You
Of
can take
course.
as much
Yep.
training as you want to take. I always feel like it's better to do it with a group, kind of, with your comrades, learning together, moving together. I mean, yes, you're working independently, you're making your own money, but it's nice to have that group to lean on or have, somebody to go to and say, hey, I need help with this. And I do feel like that's what we have in KW military. I have people on, on numbers on my phone. I just text and say, hey, what would you do with this? And then I get those calls too. Like, hey, can you help me with this? So you have those comrades, but you're still kind of on your own, but it's just a great community to build that in.
Well, and that's really what it is, right? Is if we give you the mission readiness for your tasks, we help you with that. That allows for what the military does best, and that's the community, like you said,
Yeah.
and bring the people together and let's clear what you guys are working on so that what you're working on is truly, about the human experience too. And that's what you're going to see a lot more as AI advances too. People are nervous about advances. They're nervous about technology, and there's a lot of broken technology out there,
Oh
and
yeah,
people
it
are
scares
not
them.
trusting it. And they're not
Yeah.
trusting it. And I'll tell you, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's going to take our jobs. Not if you
Yeah.
do it right.
No,
Because
I don't
really,
think it's ever going to
people,
replace
we
us. It
need
definitely
this.
helps.
No. Like, if I want my CMA done, can AI do that? Yes. But to take you as a client and show homes and then to be a part of a community that, yeah, you're calling your battle buddy, hey, I'm having a rough day. How did you get through this part in your transition into real estate, or I'm stuck in this? That's where the military, that unity is what it also strengthened, right? It strengthens around what the mission was and that support. So that's really what it's coming back to, is how can we install the military ecosystem structure back into the community and actually get everybody thriving again in a structured environment that we're used to.
Yes. All right. Well, this has been awesome. I can't wait to see where
Hopefully
KW
that's it. Gets
military
you
goes.
excited.
I'm super excited. So, and I'm sure I will see you. I know I'm going to see you next week. I can't believe in a week, next
I know, I was gonna
Saturday.
say
I'm
it felt
so
like a month
excited.
ago and it's
I
tomorrow. I
know
swear.
it's snuck up on us so fast. So, if you guys have any questions about KW military, you have anybody moving to the Phoenix area, I know it's a big area, but just I would love to get you connected, and I will see you guys on the next one.